I'm Christine Persichetti with this Currents News update. The Diocese of Brooklyn's Bishop-Designate Robert Brennan getting warm welcomes as he comes back home to his native New York. Currents News' Emily Drewby accompanied him to several diocese schools as he plans to make education a top priority.
Applause rung out at St. Xavier Church as their high school and Catholic Academy students met Bishop-Designate Robert Brennan.
I was like, that's going to be so cool.
Nathaniel DeRoy was a fan, especially when the Bishop-Designate talked about his commitment to schools.
So I really love that part especially, but I like how he had a little sense of humor as well.
Bishop Brennan putting that commitment front and center, making this school visit one of his first stops in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Already impressed by Futures in Education, which provides financial relief to families who need it most.
We're very fortunate that people do invest so heavily in our schools. It makes the opportunity of Catholic school available across the board. It's not just to a small few.
Bishop Brennan is a product of Catholic education himself. He's also on the USCCB's Committee for Catholic Education. He calls schools an important place where one encounters Jesus Christ, a sentiment vicar for Catholic schools, Monsignor David Casado, shares.
The easiest and the best way to pass on the faith is through Catholic education. It opens up an opportunity for a young child from when they're very small until they're in high school to really experience the faith.
The Bishop-Designate's outspoken commitment to schools thrilling for Superintendent of Schools Thomas Chadzuko. He's ready to hit the ground running.
I think we need to look at teacher salaries, principal salaries, finding new ways to bring in money into the academies, grants, development, things that we've been working on, but an accelerated approach.
In Park Slope, Brooklyn, Emily Drewby, Currents News.
Bishop Brennan also met with students who are studying for the priesthood. On Wednesday, he made a stop at the Immaculate Conception Center in Douglaston, Queens. There, the Bishop-Designate and the seminarians gathered for Vespers after having a brief meeting with the senior priests from the diocese. The seminarians talked about their evening with the bishop they will hopefully one day swear loyalty to.
It felt natural. Bishop Brennan seems like a very good man, and we pray for his success. Also, it's a very beautiful thing to welcome someone back home to Brooklyn.
I just hope that he continues the work Bishop DiMarzio did, continue to promote vocations, continue to promote our Catholic schools, and just continue to grow the Catholics here in Brooklyn and Queens.
Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio has brought in 104 priests since 2003. Bishop Brennan is hoping to continue that momentum and encourage more young men to hear God's call. Bishop Brennan sent a video message to the priests of Brooklyn, calling on their help as he enters his new role.
If you will be patient with me, I promise to give you my all. I have a lot to learn from you, the priest of the Diocese of Brooklyn, from your wisdom and your experience. I need your help.
He also remarked on his time with the Diocese of Columbus, calling their collaboration a source of strength and joy. Turning now to the fallout from the humanitarian crisis on the border. While the tens of thousands of mostly Haitian migrants who camped out under the bridge in Del Rio have been moved out, the effects of their presence can still be felt. National correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, John Lavenburg, is at the border and joins us now. And John, you got a personal tour from the Valverde County Sheriff yesterday of the site under that bridge, and you sent us some images. Tell us what we're seeing and what officials told you.
That's correct, Christine, I did. And you know, under the bridge, like you referenced, is completely empty at this point. No migrants, it's completely mowed over and completely empty. It looks as if no one was there. But when you turn right and you keep going down that road along the Rio Grande, you'll see trash lining it the entire way. You'll also see different encampments that migrants were stationed in that weren't under the bridge. They would stay in there. You see clothes hanging from a tree. You see trash everywhere. When you go deeper into those trees, you really see the extent of the trash that's there. It's just piles and piles of food wrappers, papers ripped up. There are plenty of IDs that are just laying around that people left because they don't need them anymore. So there's just IDs. There's all sorts of trash just all along the river. I found a passport book from Haiti that was completely empty and torn up. And then as you can see, walking down the road, it's not just trash. People also just abandon their clothing. They just abandoned their clothing on the side of the road, left it there, and then just continue on their journey. I don't know if they got new clothes or what, but clearly they just are completely starting anew.
Wow, what a sad situation. What about the local people, John, those who live in Del Rio and witnessed all of this? How did they feel about this mass migration?
You know, Christine, they think about it in a multitude of ways. From a political perspective, they say that the immigration process, the asylum process, it needs to be fixed. From their local perspective of what they feel, they also say that they feel bad for these migrants and want to help them when they come here. But at the same time, they don't, it's fearful for them. They say it's difficult. It shuts down the bridge for people that do come here legal ways. And it's also, they don't think it's necessarily fair that there are people that are just let in like that when they know so many people that have legal access to come into the country and waited sometimes years and years to get that status themselves.
Absolutely. All right, John Lavenburg, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux. Thanks for keeping us updated at the border.
Thank you, Christine.
So why this surge of Haitian immigrants all of a sudden? Well, it's actually the culmination of a drawn-out situation. Following a massive earthquake in 2010, many Haitians traveled to Chile and Brazil to find jobs and a better life. This migration only sped up when Brazil offered humanitarian visas to attract workers for the 2014 World Cup and the 2016 Olympics. When Joe Biden took office in 2021, DHS renewed temporary protected status for Haitians, which Donald Trump had revoked in 2017, but only until July 29th, which caused the surge and then the human traffic jam at Del Rio, Texas, these past few weeks. A troubling warning from a group of supply chain workers who say we're on the brink of a global collapse of the whole supply system. In an open letter to the UN and the International Chamber of Shipping, a group of seafarers, truckers, and airline workers say the pandemic has stretched workers so thin, transport chains of goods and food supplies going to our stores are on the brink of collapse. The halls of the Vatican Apostolic Library house one of the rarest collections of books, and now some of its most precious pieces are on display for the world to see. The Travel with Dante exhibit is now online, free of charge. It showcases 20,000 manuscripts pertaining to the Italian writer, including originals of his masterpiece, The Divine Comedy.
It is a practice that goes back nearly a century of popes working to promote cultural works of Dante Alighieri, since Dante was an extremely important figure not only in the history of Italian literature, but in many other respects, in particular for his faith.
The digital exhibit commemorates 700 years since Dante's death. That is this Currents News Update. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news.